our little, you can see our little notice that we're going to be closed on Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. So don't call us then, but I'll be back on Tuesday. Um, this particular view, you wouldn't see this line. This is my editorial line because I'm the editor of the newsletter. Anyway, if you scroll down, we usually have our most recent blog. This one was on, because we serve people all across the lifespan. We have information for parents. We have information for self-advocates, for people of different ages. We have information for seniors. This particular one is for people on Medicare or for caregivers who have family members on Medicare. Washington State's Office of Insurance does some pretty cool stuff. They actually are sending in a physical package for people who are not like online savvy to give them information about open enrollment. So kudos to them. I'm going to scroll down as slowly as I can. Our voucher program changed a little bit this year. I will be discussing that. And we have a statewide coalition which I invite you to join, whether you are a person who is a caregiver, a person living with autism, or both, or somebody that works at an agency as a professional. Again, all those links will be available both during and after this presentation. All right, up at the top, when people land here, you can see our various tabs. We're on the home page, the About Us. That's, kind of the usual stuff. How the program started, what it does. Not really essential. It's interesting, but it's not essential. The reason almost everybody comes to our website, the voucher program, the providers, a listing of our providers who serve people who get a voucher. The coalition I mentioned, we meet quarterly, and we're all about respite. Agencies and professionals across the state. This is exclusively for the people who are or who want to become providers with us. This is just some general descriptions of respite options for different age groups. And again, this is specific to Washington State. It's very important because there are just some programs available here that are not available elsewhere that you hear about, but also the other way around. You can hear about a program and it sounds great, but does Washington State offer it? Not always. And then resources, which is sort of a catch-all, but I'm pretty fond of the tools, guides, and how-tos, and the organization resources. So I'm going to go through every one. Hopefully, when people start with respite, we guide them to our voucher program page. We are funded through the federal government. Yes, we have not yet been shut down. Yes, we still have funding, even during the shutdown. Do we have a lot of funding? No. This is where the eligibility criteria come in. The vouchers are mini grants. They're available once per application year. They are time limited. Right now, they are available for 4 months at a time. You can spread, the funding out over 4 months, or use it all in one felt swoop to do some, more expensive form of respite. And so it's not ongoing. You can apply again a year after you've applied the last time. We have people who've, gotten grants, not necessarily in sequential years, but like every other year. But the most important thing is for people to understand that this is what's considered a gap program, when people aren't eligible for more long-term services, okay? Um, of course, if you're not eligible for those anyway, it's still available, but it will be something that you're not, you know, you're not going to be able to look forward to having it forever once you get a voucher. We have a lot of different types of providers. We have the traditional in-home services where people come in and help with activities of daily living. We have recreation programs, almost, yes, I would say 100% of the recreation programs are accessible for some and sometimes a vast number of disorders and chronic illnesses, disability-related conditions. A great many of them serve individuals with autism or other types of neurodivergences. Day and overnight camps, again, the camps are in some cases extremely and in some cases reasonably accessible. Day services, not quite as many of those as we would like, but they're there. Education classes, they're not, you know, it's not STEM and it's not reading. It's stuff like music therapy, water therapy, swimming lessons, horseback riding, crafts and, social skills groups and all kinds of interesting stuff. And if you're coming into us from Behavior Bridges, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. By the way, hello, Behavior Bridges. They are one of our providers. Very much gratified that they are with us. We cover things like retreats for the caregivers and 24-hour care. The voucher doesn't go very far towards that because in-home care or residential care for 24-hour respite is horrendously expensive. It just is. It's terrible. Okay, so all of those are things that our different providers offer. We have on each listing, the provider's website is there as well as a phone number, and people who want more information about what's available, they can call. And what about the voucher? So there's a fixed amount of money. Unlike, say, DDA and other programs, you don't get a certain number of hours, you get a fixed amount of money. You select the provider from our list and you get as much or as little as you want or need during that 4-month period. Or alternatively, if you're interested in summer camp for the child or for an older relative that you're caring for, we have we're advising people that are looking for that. We're going to have a time probably in January when we're going to put out a special time period for, I want a summer camp voucher, because that's when the camps start opening up their registrations. So again, that will be something that comes out on our Facebook or Instagram feed. It will be announced in PAVE's Pipeline newsletter and on our website as well when that happens. And pretty much some logistics, the summer program. Again, one of the things we do offer, although it can be a bit of a time suck, is if none of the providers on our listing work for you, or if you live in a part of Washington State that is not particularly available, or accessible to getting certain kinds of services, we will take suggestions from the family caregivers. Okay. And that brings me to another point that it's important for people to understand. Our awards are given to unpaid family caregivers, not to the individual who may be experiencing the chronic illness or disability or situation that causes them to need assistance. No, these monies are specifically designated for caregivers, and that's a federal requirement. That's what the program was intended to do, was support caregivers. If you're a parent, that automatically qualifies you in that category if the child lives with you, or if they are with you often enough that you qualify for the time frame for eligibility. So that means that, for example, I recently had a self-advocate contact me looking for a respite voucher. That person was not, unfortunately, eligible for one of our vouchers, but some other programs and resources in the state are available. So we also have a lot of knowledge about that. In case people don't qualify, we never just say, oh, goodbye. We offer the resources that we know about. We do at least links and phone numbers and what we can tell them about those programs. And again, the family caregiver must not be in any program where they can be paid as a family caregiver. Like, for example, some of the waiver programs, not for kids yet, I understand, but are working on situation, if you're caring for an adult person and you're on a certain waiver, then you would qualify to get paid. And again, all of these monies are federal monies coming through the states, and we are not allowed to double dip. We're just not. All right. So here is the information on qualifying. You can't get paid to be a caregiver. You have to give 40 or more hours of care per week. In other words, not every minute of every day, but at least 40. And that care has to include supervision. In other words, you have to be physically present with the caregivee. You have to live in Washington State. And you have to not be able to afford respite on your own. And you're not, getting respite services, or enrolled in a program that has respite services. Unless your person that you're caring for is eligible for, like, say, DDA services, but isn't getting any respite or personal care because they don't have the availability. In that case, you do qualify. Now, the great thing about this program is that looks like a fairly big laundry list of requirements to meet. What documentation is needed? And the answer is none. You do not have to provide proof of a diagnosis, any evaluations or assessments, proof of income, or basically proof of anything except, that you're a human being and you live in Washington State, and we'll just go by the address you give. Again, the program sounds, the usual bureaucratic rigidity, but we're trying to make it as low barrier as possible. So, and I think that works. Our biggest drawback is that we're not funded very well. When I tell you that there are exactly 2 people that work on this program for the entire state, including me, that will give you some clue as to the level of funding for this program. But I will say that historically, we have gotten to everyone eventually. So people have to be patient, unfortunately. So anyway, that's the voucher story. And I'm now going to share with you our page on providers. This takes a minute to load. There we go. When you search for provider, we have 82 providers on the list and more daily. How do you find them? You can use these. Did my screen just stop sharing?
Nope, we're still seeing
Nope.
everything. You're good.
Okay. Zoom is so much different from Teams, and I'm so not used to this anymore.
You are
Um,
doing amazingly, Barb.
well, thank you.
You're good.
Okay. So, how do you find them? Like they're just alphabetical normally, but you can search by the county you're in. And if you know that your town is like on the border of another county, you should add the other county in. So, so you'd click there. Let's see, South Sound. Why don't I pick Pierce? The type of respite, day camp, overnight camp, in-home, day services, classes, recreation. If you don't click an individual one, it will list everything that's all the types that are there. The ages, let's say children and maybe adults, but not seniors. You can also check the different kinds of populations or disabilities served. Some places specialize. So let's check developmental, emotional, behavioral, physical, and the types of services provided. A lot of this, for example, therapy services, that isn't psychotherapy. That's a therapeutic service such as equine therapy, music therapy, some other type of therapy that you're not dealing with the behavioral health care system per se. Support groups, personal assistance, that's personal assistance. That basically means hygiene. Okay. Um, so what comes up? Each provider, their business name, their public contact information, the counties they serve, their website, the type of services they offer, and the age group. Now, when someone says in-home services, you might be not aware that in-home services can provide far more than just quote unquote activities of daily living. Can provide things like taking the person who requires care out to the park if it's a walk, taking them outside to play while parent takes a nap. Um, One of my favorite stories is the woman who hired an in-home care provider to teach her, I think, 18-year-old daughter who had Down syndrome, how to bake various things. They started with brownies, and I think they made something like 10 different iterations of brownies over their voucher period. And I was like, I want to live there. Um, so a lot of healthcare. There's behavior bridges. There you are, guys. Yay. Um, an overnight camp, Camp Bosite, which serves the entire state. They also have some day camps. And there is a possibility that this year we will again receive funding that allows families whose kiddos or other older family members have a developmental disability to attend one of these camps for free. So we're good. We're thinking about that. Um, the Camp Horizon, which again draws on people all over the state. Um, Adult Day Health, Comfort Keepers of Olympia, Easter Seals, Camp Stand By Me, Everhome. Everhome is one of our in-home care providers. They are happy and good at going in-home to families, kiddos who have developmental disabilities. I think they're located in Thurston, but if you're close to the border of that county, you can check them out. We've had a lot of families go with them, family resources. They're all across the state, and we just contracted with them in every single county. Again, they will go in home if you have kiddos. Federal Way School of Music, there's education. They do music lessons. They're a lot of fun. Four Star Farm, equine therapy, adult recreation with Friends of Sequoia, more home caregivers, more equine therapy. So you can see we have a lot of interesting stuff. The UW Autism Center. Hello, people. Apex Camp joined us for the first time this past summer, and we're so happy to have you. And for those people who live near Federal Way, we rock the spectrum sensory-friendly gym and drop-ins. They are very popular. And we take advice. If somebody wants a different provider, we will help try to bring them into the fold. Questions at this point regarding how we find providers, what providers have to do to join us? Basically, it's a process where they have to sign what is sort of a contract, but it's not a financial contract. You just have to be able to state that your employees are background checked and that you carry appropriate insurance. And you don't even have to provide background check certificates. If need be, we will come after you and get them, but otherwise, no, you just have to state that you do it.
I'm
All
not
right.
seeing any unmuting or chats. I was just kind of double checking. But I have to say, Barb, what you just went through with Find Respite and that whole database is really personally, it's my favorite part of the website because, even if somebody is not able to get the voucher, you can still find recreation programs and so much great stuff. It's designed for the voucher, but I look at it and I'm like, oh, yes, what's happening right
Yeah,
now? Find Respite.
absolutely. And we do, tell people that, you do absolutely don't need a voucher to use this. And it has the advantage that these providers carry appropriate insurance and background checks. And many of them are, and you also, if you're, a home agency, in-home services agency, you have to stipulate that your workers are trained to Washington state standards, which is a high bar. We're like the highest bar in the United States in terms of, you know, people coming into your home that need to be certified. So it's it's good protection to use these providers, just saying. Um, where else do I want to take you? How am I doing on time, dear?
We're good. I think we've got about 15 minutes left. So if you've got about 5 minutes more, or if you want to open to questions, whatever you want to do works for us.
Okay, I'll do two quick things that are also on the website that people usually don't come to us looking for it, but it's there. The first one is resource organizations and websites. Some of these are within Washington State, others are national. Um, 211 Washington for traumatic brain injury, AANE, Association for Autism and Neurodiversity, caring.com, healthcare, special healthcare needs, informing families for DBA, SAGE, which is for older Americans who identify as LGBTQ plus. This gets updated as I find cool stuff, places to go. But more useful are the tools, guides, and how-tos for anyone in the state, caring for anyone at any age. I would like to point out How to Afford Family Caregiving, which is a series of articles and videos, accessible, ways to figure out how you can afford the care you're providing for your loved one, no matter what age they are, or no matter, and it may be that you've already explored every option that we've listed in here, but maybe not. So we cover paid leave, unpaid job protecting leave, job flexibility options, how to offset some of the costs of family caregiving, and long-term care, specifically for Washington State. Home Fit by AARP, which lets you, gives you all kinds of insights into home modifications if your child has, physical or other mobility disabilities. Veterans Administration has produced something called the Caregiver Respite Tool. It's not just for veteran caregivers. Anybody can use it. It has all kinds of good decision-making points and how to deal with them covered. Alzheimer's, these are quick tips. Dementia roadmap, anybody in your family's moving into the years where dementia is much more likely, or if you have a child with a developmental disability that includes an increased risk for dementia, such as Down syndrome, planning toolkit, tip sheets, and so forth. If you're in a kinship family, that is, you're not the biological parent of the person that you're caring for, or a spouse. You're instead a family member, a friend who doesn't fall into those two categories. These fact sheets are developed by a national center that deals exclusively with kinship care, and the fact sheets are very Washington specific. And we also have one that's from the Siklallam tribe, which they developed using those templates, and would also apply to tribal care in Washington State. Incidentally, that's not a separate respite program. Anybody who's a tribal member or a tribal affiliate, whether they're living on tribal lands or not, is eligible for a voucher. Some guides, handbooks, Finding Respite in Washington State. I'm updating that article even as we're speaking. It's coming out in the November PAVE pipeline. How to hire an in-home provider, not implying that you're paying them, but just like, what questions do you ask? Internet safety, long-term care, Parkinson's, Apple Health. If you or your organization have a tool that you would like to have us add here, I would love, love, love to have it. Thank you in advance if you do it. And I'm ready to take any questions, and of course, questions that come in later. My contact information. This would be a good time to drop my contact information line into the chat.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm always happy to take questions. And I will stop. Well, I will also, if you're not going to be in the chat,
While I'm looking for anybody to unmute, I wanted to just also draw attention as you've gone through so many great resources. Obviously, South Sound is Washington, but I'm also going to bring to mind that I know we usually have members joining with military connections. Some of our providers are supporting military families, and we may even have some military families present. That a lot of the tools and resources, the how-to guides, also apply across the states when it comes to, like you said, hiring somebody to provide respite, and what kind of questions do you interview with to make sure the person that's coming in is going to be the right fit for your loved one. So I really love this. I think you used a word earlier, this sort of receptacle, but that's not enough. This curated list of tools that can be used.
Yeah. Well, I'll share one more. This is just verbally. But Lifespan is not available in every state. It is available right now in, I think, 36 or 37 states. If anyone here is, going to be moving from Washington State, or at some point thinks they will, be PCSing out to another state and wonders if there will be a respite program there that they are eligible for, um, contact me. I will get you to a human being at another respite program in the United States. We're only in continental United States and maybe Hawaii. I'm not sure. We are not Oconus really, except maybe for um, Hawaii. So that's it. That's
I
what I got.
love it. You gave us so much. You say that's it as though it was so little. That was so much and so great, Barb. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm gonna stop my share, stop share, to find the tiny little button there.